Welcome to Soulful Seduction TV on a Saturday morning with me, Bully. Soulful Seduction is all about keeping you up to date on what's going on with the Essex and London soul scene. It gives me great pleasure to carry out our first interview today. Standing to the right hand side of me is the one and only Tony Matthews on a Saturday morning. Tony, welcome along to Soulful Seduction.
Thanks very much, Bully. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm glad you mentioned the London Essex soul scene, but you meant the Kent soul scene as well.
The Kent soul scene. That's the biggest problem is from Kent.
Southeast soul scene is what you meant.
That's exactly
great to be on the first one.
Yeah, Soulful Seduction. Welcome along. Of course, it's Tony Matthews, QVRM. For those that are sitting at home at the moment, sitting there going, "What the hell is QVRM?" Explain and tell us all about it.
I don't want to bore people, but I'm a naval reservist, so like the Territorial Army, but the naval version, and I've been in for over 30 years. And in 2004, I was decorated in the Queen's New Year's Honours List for services to the Navy during a given period of time. And I went to Buckingham Palace with my kids, and it means that you get what they call post-nominal letters. So like MBE, OBE, QVRM.
Is that what happened? Norman J got MBE, well, I think, if I believe
he did,
right. So you thought, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and get some letters after my name.
But I want more letters than OBE, MBE, so I've got more.
That's it. So, well, welcome along. Thank you for being with us today. Basically, tell us about, because now you're probably one of the UK's top soul DJs, the biggest weekender in the UK, which we're going to talk about very shortly. How did it all start for Tony Matthews?
Well, it's very kind of you to give me that accolade. I don't think I'm right up there at the top, although it's nice to be thought of. It started for me way back in the early 70s. So in the mid to late 70s, my brother-in-law was a DJ at a local pub, and I used to go along and watch him. And he'd import 7 inches from all over Europe, all over America, and I really got into the Motown scene at that time, as it was, and funk, Herbie Mann, Hijack, all that kind of stuff. And from then I progressed through some friends to go to the clubs in London, the iconic clubs like Global Village, Crackers, on a Friday lunchtime, 100 Club, all that kind of clubs that were around at the time, breaking really good jazz funk music. And it was at the time when the soul boy scene had just started on its upward curve. So I was really lucky to be in there. Global Village on a Saturday night was an incredible place, and the dancers were there. It was all about the dancing and the music. In fact, we used to hang out there with the guys from Spandau Ballet.
Wow.
Before they became Spandau Ballet, they used to go to...
Slightly uncomfortable, but we go with it because that was the new romantic era, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the Spandau Ballet were really jazz funk boys, and they were soul boys. And when I used to hang around with Pete Tong, and we used to do the Monday night at King's Lodge, the drummer used to come along, John used to come along to our gig every week. So it was a place with lots of...
You all right, Tony? You all right?
I was thinking of Pete Tong and all that money he owes me. Lots of movers and shakers at the time. So I was heavily influenced by black music. I used to read Blues and Soul every week. Black music, anything you could get. And we started going to all the clubs. And then, obviously, the soul mafia scene exploded, which we were delighted about, And that was the start of it for me.
When you saw the DJs at the clubs, did you think that's what I want to be? That's where I'm going to go?
No, I didn't. I was always a dancer. That's what people knew me as. And I don't know if you've got Snowboy's book, Mark, about the history of acid jazz and jazz funk. He's got a section in there, and there's a page on me and my brother being the dancers around.
So how did you progress from the dancer on the soul scene, jazz funk scene, into the DJing? What was your first
Purely
gig?
By accident. First gig I did was for Brian Ricks and his organisation, who's now the promoter of Caister, and that was doing one of the little rooms at the Woodville Hall's beach party in Gravesend back in about 1980, I think it might be, something like that. And really, I'd never had a sort of yearning to be a DJ. It was only in later life, after I got married, got divorced, kids had grown up, and time to move on, couldn't dance because my knees are knackered. And I got together with a group of friends in Kent called the South of the River Crew, and we started doing gigs here and there. And then from there it progressed. So this would be about 20 years ago, I guess. And it started to progress from there. And I kind of got more and more of the bug, and I seemed to be able to find myself a slot where people wanted to book me. So
can you remember that first, because it was vinyl in them days, wasn't it? So can you, vinyl, if anyone knows what that means.
That's why I've got long arms.
Can you remember that first song that you played?
Sausalito, probably. It was always been one of my favourites. I always loved it, and it lasted 11 minutes, so it gave you plenty of time to think about what you're going to play next. Because I'm not one of those ones who writes down a playlist, So, but I was always heavily influenced by Motown, the big bands of Motown, Temptations, all those kind of people, Undisputed Truth, all that kind of funk era really still grabbed me. People always say to me, "Oh, Tony, you're the Philly DJ," but actually, I'm an old jazz funk boy. That was my thing that I learned from Global Village and from Crackers and from places like that. You know, the greatest tune ever for me was Trip to Your Mind, Hudson People.
Yeah.
And to me, still an icon. I can only dance to 30 seconds of it now, but...
Is it slowly getting to 25, 20, 15 seconds?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Right, you heard Tony talk about the Caister Soul Weekender. Very shortly, we're going to be talking to Tony all about what he's got to offer this coming April at the Caister Soul Weekenders. Standing to the right hand side of me is Tony Maggot Matthews, QVRM. We explained about the QVRM, Tony. Just one quick question. I do see on various forums, okay, on various forums, going right back to the old days of Caister when you used to attend Caister as well, Tony Maggot Matthews.
Yeah.
How did that also come about?
Well, it's like a reverse joke thing. My girlfriends used to call me boa constrictor. No.
Tony Justin Timberlake Matthews or something like that.
What it was, I was actually used to work on the river, on the Merchant Navy, on the tugboat.
Oh, right.
And at 15, 16, I used to...
I think it's to do with something else.
And I was just getting into clubbing at the time, and we used to go to Global Village, all those clubs, get back in the early hours of the morning, go straight to work. And I used to sleep on the pier. And I used to say I looked like a maggot shriveled up on the pier because all the blokes would turn up for work and there'd be me in my mohair jumper, leg warmers and buried, sleeping on the pier. He looks like a little maggot.
And that's where it comes
And sadly,
from.
my brother-in-law was there and he sort of told everybody, and then other people picked it up from playing football. And luckily, I managed to get rid of it for decades until you just mentioned it.
Thank you very much.
But
we're going to
still-
try and bring that back, okay? So
No,
if you
we're
see
not.
Tony at Caister, you call him Tony Maggot
But
Matthews.
my younger brother, Terry Matthews, also calls himself Maggot, so I'm happy for him to do that.
Yeah, we'll continue on with that. Now, we've got Caister, the Soul Weekender, probably now the UK's biggest Soul Weekender.
Sell-out Soul Weekender, yeah.
Of course, you're there. You play various sets, including the anthems and Philly sets and stuff like that. You've been there for some time. Considered as a well-respected Caister Soul DJ. What have you got to offer? How are you sort of going to make it different on the one that's coming up in April, May?
Good question, and it's a real challenge because we've got lots of really exciting new DJs there, all bringing some interesting stuff along. What I'm going to do is just go back a bit, you know, because tends to be a trend at the moment for remixes and for housey stuff. I'm going to go back and try and pull up some of the old stuff, what we call the crate diggers, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing a Motown big band set. I'm going to be playing some of that real kind of thumping stuff, Undisputed Truth, Temptations, all those kind of people, and dragging that kind of stuff.
You've got some new DJs coming through. Of course, technology's changing as well. The mixing, all the technology that's getting the music out there. How do you not so much compete with the DJs, but how do you keep to that level that some of the new DJs are bringing through?
That's a good question as well. I think it's about being professional yourself, being where you're supposed to be, not just turning up and saying, I'm going to play, thinking about what you're going to do, making sure you're listening to some new music that's going around, listening to people that are dragging through new music, finding out what the trend is, but also knowing about the culture of Caister, and I think that's important. And I've been there playing there 16 years, virtually non-stop. I've done the past 36, I think, on the trot.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing the audience there, because a lot of people that go to Caister don't go to other gigs. They don't necessarily go out every week, every month like we do. So you're not on trend with everything. Some of them want to hear what they want to hear. And you blend in some new stuff. Always the Soul Togetherness album is always brilliant for bringing in new stuff as well. But I think what you've got to do is be aware of what people want to hear, you know.
If you had one memory of one Caister, what would that be?
First time I played in the main room.
Really?
Chris Hill sitting behind me, so legend. So obviously no.
Was you like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, am I doing it right?
Absolutely no pressure. Chris Hill sitting behind me, you know, just generally watching what's going on.
Yeah.
Fabulous atmosphere. It's midnight. I go to press the button to eject the CD and turn the power off. The main room at Caister, 2,000 people went, whoa!
Did you get that?
Yeah, I said, I'm just checking you're awake, you know, as you do, and move on. So that, but no, I mean, the memories that I have at Caister are legion, legend, and sort of.
Yeah.
The anthem session with Pete Collins, great friend of mine, is still one of the highlights of the weekend for me. It makes your hairs on the back of your neck stand up when everyone's singing and dancing together. It's fabulous.
It's almost becoming like a finale now, isn't
it
it?
is, yeah.
So.
And I think there's a lot of restructuring going on at Caister regarding when we have the finale, when we have the anthem set. And Caister's trying to evolve. It's not sort of sticking where it was.
Yeah.
It's saying, what do we need to do to keep people coming in? There's a lot of competition. We're very lucky because Caister's still selling out twice a year.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous lineup of DJs, and I gather we might have Joey Negro again in September. So, you know, it's
So
great.
we're moving on.
Yeah.
I like sometimes when we're at Caister, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I see Tony walking around the corner by the end of the weekend looking absolutely knackered.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Absolutely tired, worn out, but keeping the music going. What keeps Tony Matthews' stamina? What's the drive behind that soul heart of yours? What keeps it going?
I think I like people to think I'm professional. I care about what I do. I don't get drunk while I'm DJing. I make sure I get my head down and get some sleep. You know, not up partying like we used to be able to. You know, you've got to make sure, you've got to know where you are. Make sure you're organised before the weekend, even before the weekend. Plan your sets when you go away. I've got to be in that room at that time. Who's on before me? Who's on after me? In the main room, we like to be in the main room an hour before you go on, so you're not duplicating the music. And I think that's important as well. But for me, Case is about going down with my friends who are the audience, and I'm one of them as well. I'm not really just a DJ. I'm a friend of the people that are down there. I want to mix with them and catch up with them. Some of them I've not seen for a while. So it's the whole atmosphere that's important for me.
Okay, make sure you check it out, weekenders.co.uk, one of the top UK soul weekenders as well. We love it, we all go as well here today. So, Soulful Seduction Television, we're going to be back after this. Right, welcome back to Soulful Seduction TV. Basically, with me, Bully, talking about all the soul scene in the southeast, and of course, standing to the right hand side of me is top soul DJ from the UK, Tony Matthews, QVRM, and also AKA Maggot. Right, I went on Google, Tony. Right,
don't believe what you read on Google.
I do like the name Tony Matthews QVRM because he's got a bit of punch in it.
Yeah, where are we going with this?
We explained about that earlier. I went on Google and I looked up Tony Matthews, so we sort of basically Googled your name.
Yeah.
And I come up with some ideas to give you an idea of where you want to go in the future. Of course, if you do decide to move away from the DJ scene. Tony Matthews, Director of Operations in the Midlands.
In the Midlands?
Which is not bad, not bad. Coming from Kent.
Director of Operations of what?
I don't know, it just says Director of Operations.
That sounds good.
I like this one as well. Tony Matthews, Welsh-Australian author and historian. Are you good with history?
I am very good.
Are you good at writing?
No. Excellent with history.
We'll move on from that one. This one as well, which I think you're going to like, being a Chelsea supporter as well. Tony Matthews is a former semi-professional footballer who played briefly in Switzerland.
Well, there you go. That's good for me, yeah.
Is that the one?
I think that's the one.
So, right, we talk about Caister Soul Weekender. Let's talk about, of course, you're coming from across the water over to Essex, the Kent Soul scene. You run the Kent Soul sessions, you run the Rust Club as well. Tell us all about the whole scene in Kent at the moment. Is it bubbling over as much as what it is in Essex?
I think Kent's always had a really strange soul scene. It's been more of a funk scene, I think, jazz funk, whereas Essex has always been a big soul scene.
Yeah.
Margate, Gravesend, Maidstone were the three areas from my youth where the soul scene really exploded.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pete Tong comes from Gravesend, and we all know about Pete and his success. So he drove that area as well. But Gravesend's always been a twin town with Margate in terms of the soul scene. There was always a lot of characters down there with a massive club called the Atlantis. It used to go every Saturday. And in Gravesend we had the King's Lodge in the Hilltop not far away as well, and the Woodville Hall. So it's always been quite iconic. Flicks just up the road. So it's always been lots of people. We used to travel to Essex to go to the gigs, but we had our own scene as well. And I think now a lot of those people are still keeping that going.
Yeah.
I mean, my view was always to try and do a gig in my hometown of Gravesend. And now we've got this little one which is going very well. And you've got the explosion of the Margate Soul Weekender as well, which is incredible. And some great names there and some live PAs as well, which is attracting a lot of interest. So it's great to see that the scene is there, I think.
What I did, now you've been around from the early days of the soul scene, all the way through from it dropping off, losing that momentum to suddenly being picked up again and going into sort of almost like a 2000 and plus explosion.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
The soul scene kind of died when punk came along, which really infuriated me. You know, a lot of the part-time soul people all disappeared, went into the punk scene, and then it went new romantic. And really, clubs wanted full-up bars and full-up people. They didn't really care about soul people. They were more interested in dancing and buying drinks. And I think the record labels didn't want to support it as well. You had pioneers like Chris Hill, Robbie Vincent, Craig Edwards were playing their music on the radio. Their shows all kind of disappeared as well. And I think a lot of people grew up a bit, got married, so the audience wasn't there. Now, people are finding they've got spare time again, they've got disposable income. they want to do something. And I think DJs like yourself and Matt and all the other soul DJs in Essex are starting to bring back venues. So look, you can come out at our age, 40 plus, and have a great time.
The only thing we notice is by about 10:30 we're knackered.
Yeah, well, so am I.
That's it, we've had enough. So
Some people don't go out till 10:30.
That's it, exactly. We've got the Kent, of course, you've got the Kent Soul Sessions all day coming up.
Yep.
As well. Tell us a little bit more about that. You've got some guest DJs. It sounds like it's going to be a great day as well. Tell us more.
Always a great day. So their third one at TJ's in Gray's Inn. Tiny little venue, only takes about 200 people. Fantastic sun trap in the back garden. They have a barbecue. And we have a selection of different soul DJs from across Essex, London and Kent playing their stuff. There's no prescription. Play what you want, It doesn't have to be anthems, doesn't have to be funk. Play whatever you want.
As long as everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
how can anyone find out more about that?
Well, if they can catch me on Facebook, Tony Matthews QVRM, and I can send them the information. I'm quite happy to do that as well. Or on www.kentsouldj.com.
And we've got the Rust Club as well, so you're coming over the water
Rust Club in
into the
Essex,
Rust Club.
Yeah, absolutely, and we enjoy that. Fantastic old school venue with a great wooden dance floor once every couple of months. That's called Soul Reunited. So, the scene is great and very vibrant at the moment. And in fact, we were talking about this the other day. Over the past couple of years, it's exploded. There seems to be a gig or a weekender on every week, every month. And I think what we've got to do is make sure we're keeping the quality up and keeping these events going, and a long way to continue.
Liking the idea of that. Do you ever, when you're DJing, just before we end and we give out some details about some of the gigs that are coming up as well in the future for you, when you're DJing, I tend to start talking like that.
So you're DJ, mate?
Every now and then I talk like that. Do you ever sort of go just a little bit DJ? Because I need some help here.
Only on Saturdays.
Only on Saturday. So, right, more details about what you've got to look forward to in the future. How are you going to progress on? Years and years ago, you said to me, the hardest bit about DJing, being a promoter and keeping them nights going is the momentum.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I think one of the main things is play what people want to hear. Spend more time looking at the audience and not looking at your equipment.
Yeah.
I've seen so many DJs spend more time looking at their gadgets.
They're like that.
And their computers and their trestles they bring along with all that stuff.
We're sounding like old men.
I know, but I've seen it, and they forget that it's about the people out there. What do they want to hear? I'm not here to impress my friends over there. I'm here to give people a good time, to make them forget about the stresses of life. Keep playing that brilliant soul music that's out there.
Just enjoy yourself. Tony Matthews, QVRM, aka Maggot. Thank you for speaking to Soulful Seduction
Loved
TV.
it.
Make sure you check this fella out at Caister. Top DJ, plays some great music as well. Good luck in the future with all the projects.
Cheers.